Well, like everything else, though, making demands that'll never be met. And here we are, the fake ceasefire pretty much coming to an end as the headlines get into. It looks like America has struck, and you'll see that in these news clips. They have struck southern Iran. You know, these are headlines that have just happened. Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four quarters of the earth from claiming this truth. Braka the Yahweh, Braka the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Brakatem. So, deal or no deal? I mean, that has been the headlines for the last, week or two. But, this so-called ceasefire, which is really just rearmaments, as they pretty much have started.
Trump has said that in order to reach a peace deal with Iran, certain Muslim nations must normalize their relations with Israel.
Yeah, here we go.
I stated that, after all the work done by the United States to try and pull this very complex puzzle together, it should be mandatory that all of these countries, at a minimum, simultaneously, sign on to the
okay, the one that attacked you, make a deal with them.
Those countries discussed are Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, already a member, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain, already a member.
Join the alliance.
Let's discuss this with
Become a Zionist
Director
state.
of the Research Society of International Law, joining us from Islamabad. Welcome to the program, sir. So, what's your initial reaction to Trump saying that most countries in the so-called Greater Middle East should join the Abraham Accords and it, quote, should be mandatory?
Well, of course, this is, certainly something that has come as a surprise because this isn't how negotiations are conducted, especially on something as sensitive as the peace agreement that could potentially come out between the U.S. and Iran. Making a recognition of Israel signing on to the Abraham Accords as an element that is that the agreement is continued upon really is not something that I think has been really discussed even in policy circles here. So I think it does come as a surprise. What I think is important to understand is that this is not something that is going to suddenly change policies within these countries. Speaking for Pakistan, I think our policy has been the same for decades. And that policy is very clear. It was most recently enunciated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson, Ambassador Tahir Andrabi, where he said that any recognition of Israel or any signing up to an Abraham Accord type of framework would be contingent on certain benchmarks, and those benchmarks relate to the state of Palestine, where there has to be a viable, continuous, internationally recognized state of Palestine. And only then could Israel actually be recognized by this. And so I really think this hasn't really been taken very well by these countries, and certainly the street in many of these countries is going to be quite upset by this.
And Pakistan indeed is among the countries that Trump believes must normalize their relations with Israel. But as you say, Pakistani officials, they're dismissing any such suggestion. But how do you expect the situation to develop, though, especially if the U.S. increases its pressure?
So this is interesting because, Trump has a particular style of conducting his foreign policy. He has a particular style of, making these statements on Trump's, on Truth Social. But we certainly can't discount the importance of this. He's used the term mandatory, that this should be a mandatory, at the very minimum, this should be something that is accepted by these countries. But it is something, I think, too critical to our foreign policy and also to our national interests, our goals, that simply abandoning perhaps, the Palestinian people can't take place. And so this is not how foreign policy should be conducted in this manner of, say, arm twisting.
So it means to sell out the Palestinians. So, of course, no country's going to agree to that. Here we go. And this just took place as well. A retaliatory against Kiev.
The main event of the past weekend was Russia's massive strike on Kiev and its surrounding regions. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the strike was carried out in retaliation for terrorist attacks on civilian facilities in Russia. In particular, the Ukrainian army's strike on a student dormitory in Starobisk in the Luhansk People's Republic. As a result of that strike, 21 teenagers were killed, most of whom were young girls. On the night of May 24th, Russian forces launched a significant missile attack on Ukrainian military targets in Kiev and the surrounding areas. More than 100 missiles and 700
and the
strike drones
Resniks were
in total.
used.
Almost all types of ballistic and cruise missiles were used in the attack, including Iskander, Kinzhal, Zircon, Kalibr, and others. Explosions were reported in 5 districts of the Ukrainian capital. The headquarters of the Ukrainian Army's Ground Forces Command was hit. Facilities on the grounds of the separate presidential regiment named after Hetman Bogdan Khmelnytsky were destroyed. Military factories within the city were also targeted. Hits were reported at the Artem and Analit Pribor enterprises as well as at the Automated Systems factory. A 10,000 square meter shopping center was completely burned down. It is believed to have housed a Ukrainian Army weapons depot. Additionally, strikes were carried out against several logistics hubs handling military cargo transit. The Russian Odysee missile system was used against targets in Bila Tserkova, a city in the Kiev region. This hypersonic missile is one of the most advanced and highly classified weapons in the Russian Army's arsenal. According to video footage recorded by eyewitnesses, the Odysee warhead consists of 36 submunitions. The missile struck the support infrastructure of a military airfield. It is believed that long-range drones assembled at this facility were used deep within Russian territory. Other regions of Ukraine were also targeted, though not to the same extent. Russian cruise missiles hit the Starokonstantinov airfield, home to F-16 fighter jets provided to Kiev by Western allies. In Poltava and Kremenchuk, fuel and energy infrastructure facilities were targeted. Fires were reported at petroleum product storage facilities. The Ukrainian government used the strike to draw international attention. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiga requested an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council as well as a joint meeting of the OSCE bodies. Kiev may be using this attack as a pretext to secure additional Western military aid, particularly air defense missiles. Overall, the Ukrainian strike on the student dormitory and Russia's subsequent retaliation are more indicative of further escalation than of the parties' desire to make peace. The conflict could evolve entirely into a mutual destruction of rear infrastructure, given the current trend toward a slowdown in the pace on the front lines.
So there you have it. And the comfortability is about to go bye-bye.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash. I would also like to give double honors to my elders, bishops, and apostles of Great Millstone that do root well. And I would like to say peace, safety, and salutations to the Lord's beloved elect, to the hopeful elect in 1/3, and Adawan Ratazah. This lesson will be edifying and most importantly exhorting to the sincere sheep of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash, and the Wada Abanawa Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash for giving me the inspiration to do this lesson. And pretty much I want to go into this Cuba situation right now and go into some harsh realities that Jake is dealing with right at this present moment, as you see business as usual taking place here in Babylon, and ultimately what the people in Babylon are not adhering to, all right, they're not set up in the spirit to take heed to, is the fact that, these plagues, these situations, these economic woes, these societal issues that we're, hearing about, but then you're just so busy with the business of Babylon that you kind of fan your hand. You're not thinking too much about it. These people are getting ready to have to deal with these situations, and even on a higher level. Okay, so if you haven't been under a rock, pretty much Cuba ground level is suffering right now. All right, they're suffering because of the lack of oil, the lack of resources, and ultimately prophecy. So what I did was I asked ChatGPT to pretty much give me a rundown of what Cuba is dealing with. And we're going to use that in a compare and contrast of what prophetically is going to take place here in Babylon. This is Matthew 24 and 12. All right, this is in red letter. And it says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. So right now, you're seeing uproars of the people. You're seeing, just wild acts. A lot of what they call YNs now. A lot of young kids are just, causing riots and chaos and losing it. So it's like when you look at how Babylonians act when their team wins, when their team loses, and you take those same reactions, but then now you give them the scenario of lack of bread, water, resources, or even rumors that causes hysteria on people. Do you understand the animalistic attributes that these Babylonian citizens are going to have in the very near and dear future? Okay, so what you see going on in Cuba, let that take place here in Babylon, and you're gonna see a third world country right in your back door. So I asked this question because it came across my mind earlier today. I said, what's going on with Cuba, which Cuba is the tribe of Manasseh, so those are Israelites out there, okay? I said, what's going on with Cuba right now, ground level? Tell me the harsh reality. So that's one thing that Yahweh Bashem El Shai, Bashem HaKakwadash has blessed us with, is the spirit to look into what other people, avoid, which the precept comes to my mind is Ezekiel, that's being a watchman. So the Lord blessed us to have the spirit to pretty much deal with what other people, try to ignore
or overlook.
Especially first and foremost, Jake. Ezekiel 3:17, it says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. So we are set up in the spirit to watch, to observe, to see what's going on with world events, and to bring that information back to the congregation through the filtration of the scriptures, all right, and ultimately through the Holy Spirit to give comfort, to exhort, to warn, to rebuke, to admonish, to prophesy, because nowhere else in the world are you getting the information before it happens, okay? It says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel, therefore hear the word in my mouth and give them warning from me. So you should take the Cuban situation as a warning. All right, and if I remember that, Adonai Tazah, I'm going to title this lesson that you should look at the Cuba situation as a warning. All right, so right here, let's look what's going on in Cuba right now. Okay, we go out and we teach and we tell you, the different tribes, okay, and one in particular tribe, this is what they're dealing with in their land right now. Well, the land that they been given for this period of time from exile. It says ground level in Cuba right now is rough in a way most tourists never fully see. The reality on the street is a mixture of exhaustion, survival mode, fear, anger, and adaptation. See? So right now you have business as usual in Babylon, but the right scenario that can cut off a city, a town, a state, cause a statewide emergency, because that's easily can happen here and will happen. Okay, there could be certain cities or states that become no-go zones, all right, or in particular cities, towns, or states that have a certain situation that now you can't go to, and then it's media blackout. You don't know what's going on. The people potentially in it or in this vicinity can no longer leave. So there's a lot of things that are going to play out here in Babylon that Babylonians are not even expecting in the spirit. Now look at this. It says electricity blackouts. Okay, look, it says many neighborhoods are losing power for 12 to 20 plus hours a day. Now, right now, it's almost going on 8 o'clock and the sun is still out. But what's going to happen when the sun goes down? What happens with the rising temperature of heat? What happens with the water? Okay, so now you're starting to deal with uncomfortable situations. You're dealing with uncertainty. You're basically limited to access to information. That's why it says, well, they that look out the windows be darkened. So if the electricity were to go out, look, it says in some areas have experienced near total blackouts. So right now, there's a complete blackout in Cuba, okay? And what do you think people are doing? They're just sitting there playing, backgammon. They're just chilling, putting batteries in the radio and listening to Ricky Martin. Hell nah. Okay, you got to look at the psychological aspect of someone even dealing with just simply the electricity being out. You've ever dealt with that just, for a short period of time? It can be frustrating, okay? This is why it says, 2 Ezra 15, it says that all those, let me get it real quick. They shall die in their unfaithfulness, all right, which is 2 Ezra 15. Let me grab that. That's one chapter behind. Let me see if I can go there. Okay, perfect. 2 Ezra 15 and 4, it says, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So this has been very heavy on my spirit lately, is the spiritual power of faith, okay, and trusting in the Lord, all right, believing in Yahweh Bashem El Shai, because if you don't have faith in these situations, then how are you going to be protected? This is 2 Ezra 16 and 22. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, okay, and that's one thing I'm going to say, obviously for all of us, but in particularly, this famine is going to expose you women, man. I'm going to tell you right now, something, electricity going out, loud noises, okay, war, no food, lack of bread, is going to humble you women, okay? You women right now are living in a very delusional, proud state of comfort right now. And when that gets stripped from you in a very harsh manner, your simple, Barbie world, okay, is going to get turned upside down. All right, and this is why the scripture says, woe to you careless daughters. See? So how you think those beautiful Manassite women in Cuba are being treated right now? Okay, this is a harsh reality that a lot of people don't want to face. Okay, but this is what needs to be said. It says, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the others that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Look at that, man. So escaping hunger will lead to you being shot down, okay? And the military's not going to be playing, all right? Men ain't going to be playing, and it's going to get really bad out here. And you should look at Cuba as a perfect example of scenarios that are going to play out here. It says people can't refrigerate food, charge phones, pump water, or sleep properly in the heat. Hospitals, transportation, and businesses are heavily affected. So right now, people's sleep are being affected, okay, water, food, and that's all happening while Esau is still promoting, the World Cup or, someone's next album, or, this is why people are losing it, because the deceptive propaganda machine of self-idolization that Babylon has distracted the world with is now making poor people angry, because now who wants to follow or chase after some self-glorified so-called celebrity when their fridge is empty, their food is, so Babylon is losing it, man. Okay, right now you got the world being affected by real problems, and he's still trying to distract you about a NFL draft or a new movie. Even Keith Sutherland or something like that, he's an actor and I guess now a musician, he had to cancel his tour because of low ticket sales. And I said, damn, I ain't surprised. Who the hell wants to go to a concert right now? But a careless daughter would. See, right now you have the careless daughter and the careless customers of Babylon still trotting around trying to live their best life. And really, they're just trying to ignore the harsh reality that's inching in, okay? It says, people bang pots in the streets during outages and protests, uproars of the people, have broken out in parts of Havana because families are reaching a breaking point. Now, let's go to there. 2 Ezra 9. All right, I'm going to keep using this because that new KJV is a little weird, so we're going to just use what we got. This is 2 Ezra 9 and 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest parts of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So Yahweh Bashem El Shai is visiting the earth right now. And this is how the Lord visits you, man. Okay, so people are being jacked up by the visitation of Yahweh Bashem El Shai. This is just a small scale. Okay, this is just a small scale. And it says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and look what's causing uproars. Not only political turmoil, not only just, mainly political turmoil. I don't like this regime. We don't want this leader. But now people are also, uproaring because of survival. The war is affecting these war-torn countries. What do you think creates a third world country? War. So these smaller countries, that are not so well off, they're the first to get hit. The ghettos of the world. So how you think it's going to be for Jake here in Babylon? If the ghettos of the world are being affected and they can't sustain the shift, How much more, Jake, in the average inner city? Because a great shift is taking place right now. Okay, so people are being brought purposely to a breaking point. So when Esau comes in with some kind of form of salvation, they're going to accept whatever it is, and ultimately it's going to come through the form of a microchip, which is the mark of the beast.
And we'll get into this some more. You know, this is just a little breakdown. So, actually, you know what? There's not there's only a little bit left, but nonetheless, though, think about it, though. Things haven't really been turned up to the full scale of what's about to happen. We're only at the beginning of these things, you know. But it is going to continue to be turned up. I mean, people are fed up with Donald Trump, you know. They're sick of it. They're sick of the small hats. They're sick of fighting for the Israeli state and Israeli interests. It's like, well, what interest does that serve over here? He's not dealing with America first. It's Israel first, and they're sick of it, you know. And they're sick of the idea that, oh, you say anything against the Israeli state, you're anti-Semitic, you know. They're sick of it, you know. So there's even more going on there, and it's going to continue to be turned up. It's just Babylon will be the last to fall, because that's the last kingdom that gets destroyed before the return of Yahweh Shai. So you can see why things might hit Cuba or other places first. Because, of course, that's what Babylon is doing to them, you know, under Trump. You know, Trump is looking to take over Cuba anyways.
Okay, so when you leave people, you know, no water, no food, no electricity, you know, starving, the comfortability is taken away, you really got an easier target. They're not going to be so apprehensive for what's provided.
Look at the way people acted during Katrina.
Or sustain the situation that they're in. Okay?
Hurricane Katrina is an example of it over here.
It says food shortages, see? So you got electrical blackouts, food shortages. A lot of Manassites spend huge portions of their days searching. There's a famine. Let's go back to Matthew 24. This is a famine, man. This is a famine. Yahweh Shai said that there will be famines. Look at this, man. And this is happening right now, okay? Because even I myself, I said, man, I haven't heard nothing about Cuba. What's going on with Cuba? Which that was the Lord inspiring me to put it on my mind to look that up, okay? Matthew 24. And
just quietly, he's looking to take it over.
Let's just go to 7. It says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. We have all that happening right now. Okay, you got pestilences, you got earthquakes. What was the other one? Pestilence, earthquake, and famines, all right now. Look, something that's a daily search is rice, bread, eggs, cooking oil, medicine, fuel. So right now you got Babylonians, you know, I wanted extra chicken on my sandwich. What are you doing? So right now you got these heifers, you know, complaining, being proud, looking for, you know, more than what they need. All these people are doing is just living off more of what they need. Okay, and even the portions that are given on a daily here, you know, I always look at like, man, another country, could you imagine what they would do with that? So right now, Babylon is starting to become the, you know, the face of disdain. You know, you imagine you dealing with all this shit, and then you turn on, you know, Babylonian broadcast, and it's fucking Tucker Carlson or, you know, some stupid-ass cliche, smiling Edomite face, acting like everything's perfect and okay. That would piss you off. So the world is getting pissed off at Esau's phony and fakeness, man. Okay, that fake-ass, everything's okay, angel of light shit. All right? The world is really being affected right now, and that fake Edomite plastic smile is getting melted off, man. Because the world is like, yo, this shit, the Super Bowl ain't fixing us, bro. You see? It says stores.
I call it the stupid
Some stores
bowl.
are empty. Others only sell in foreign currency that average Cubans barely have access to. Many families survive off remnants of relatives in the U.S. or black market trade. Healthcare system is struggling badly. Transportation is collapsing. See this? Look at all this, man. This is why, you know, we're to let go of mortal thoughts. And this is why the scriptures also warned us about being pilgrims, man. You know, because the time coming, you know, let me go to I'm at 9. The time coming, you're going to have to let everything go, man. Okay, you're going to truly have to let all this bullshit go, man. So let me get out of that. Let me just go down into it. Is it 39? Right here. Let me see, where is it? The virgins, the bridegrooms, the plague. Here we go. This is 2nd Ezra 16 and 40. Oh, my people, there's so much I could have read. I could have read all of that. It says, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. So now you got people in other countries because of prophecy being affected. So now they're fleeing to other countries to seek refuge. And now when they get there, they're being labeled as problems. You know, they're disrupting shit. And it's like everybody is basically like fleeing.
Illegal immigration is what they're called.
An animal a flea bath. And what do the fleas do? They all go to the one area that's still able to be inhabited. So because of Babylon's pride, because of Babylon's pomp, all right, now Babylon is being looked at as a buoy, a life raft, a life jacket to help those that are drowning. So you're heaping more mouths in the kitchen that you're not going to be able to feed. So these people in Babylon that are eating constantly, now they're stuck with people who are looking for food. Now they're going to have to fight off and fend to keep their food, and it's just going to be a complete clash, man. Babylon's they're gonna fucking eat each other. These people are gonna eat each other here, man. Okay? Let's keep going, because if we could take everything that's happening in Cuba and say, how would an Edomite react? How would a Jake react? How would an American react? See? Look at what's going on in Cuba and ask yourself, how would Americans react to rolling blackouts, searching for something simple as food, not having transportation, not having access to health care? How would they react? Let's keep going, man. Transportation is collapsing. Tourism is weak. Of course. Tourism was supposed to help stabilize the economy, but blackouts and shortages scares visitors away. Yeah, prophecy is taking place. The Lord is visiting the earth. So now the whole business and usual, work hard, play harder, the Lord is taking that out of the earth. And now everyone has to stand still, man. Because what the world is getting ready to realize is the world was created for our sakes. Not for you to just be on here lollygagging, ha-ha, and he-he. And no, the Lord is bringing everything to a stop. Okay, because a great reset is getting ready to happen. Oh, look, see? Look at this. I didn't even know this. Look, that's the Holy Spirit. Massive migration. That's the Holy Spirit. A huge number of Cubans, especially younger people, want to leave. Many have left over the last few years, right, which is 2nd Ezra 15. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to. Let me get that one as well real quick. Matthew's, well, I'm quoting it, but let me see. Let me just try to grab it real quick. Let's go to 2nd Ezra 15, excuse me. I got Matthew's on the brain. 2nd Ezra 15, and, yep, here we go. Right here. 2nd Ezra 15 and 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So now you're having people think that they could flee these prophetic problems, and there's going to start being influx of checkpoints. Remember, Trump said that they need a biometric entry exit visa tracking system that they need desperately. It will be on land, sea, and air. What did he say? The biometric visa tracking system that we need desperately. Did he say that? So this is perfect, man. Okay? So look, South America, Florida, Nicaragua, Mexico, flames are split apart. Entire neighborhoods have lost working age adults. See? Political atmosphere. Look, so you need to look at Cuba and then imagine how Americans would react. You see? Look, at the same time, the government blames Babylon, embargo, and newer sanctions for strangling the economy, especially fuel imports. Many analysts agree the embargo heavily worsens the crisis, while others also point to internal blah, 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 blah. See? Excuse me. So I just wanted to touch on this topic because this is prophecy, man. So what do you think is going to happen to Babylonians when they got to deal with that? When they got to deal with lack of bread? When they got to deal with power outages? You know, when their comfortability is literally ripped from under their ass? What are they going to do? You know? And I believe, yeah, we'll just finish off verse 18. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. See? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. So there you go. You want to know how Babylonians will react? Read the scriptures. So for us to see what's taking place throughout the world, now imagine when that takes place in a Babylonian's backyard. Prophecy is about to land in the Babylonian's backyard, okay, in a major, major way. So, hey, be in the spirit, lock in, and ultimately brace for impact. Because this place, they're about to get hit, man. So you better brace for impact now, because it's gonna be a very bumpy ride.
And like everything else, though, how much more when they're telling you that, which we know it's fabricated, but at the same time, they're telling you no fuel by the 4th of July when it turns 250. Well, that was even before the war just got restarted. See, the war never really ended. They just was on a so-called ceasefire, hoping for an end to the war, looking for an exit way out. But no, King Bibi says, no, it's over when I say it's over. So, you got all that going on. So here we go, a perfect scenario.
Let's move on to some overseas
So here we
news
go.
now, because there are breaking reports that the US has launched strikes on Iran, coming at such a delicate time for the peace process. Let's go straight to Washington.
Well, we know that was a fake peace deal anyway.
Jono, do we know any more?
We're getting word through via Central Command. That is the US military group responsible for operations in that area in the Middle East and in Iran. It was first reported by our affiliates Fox News here in the United States.
Fox
These were what Central Command are describing as self-defense strikes in southern Iran to protect what they say are our troops from threats posed by Iranian forces. Last hour, we were bringing you reports of explosions in the Bandar Abbas area of southern Iran. Now we know the detail of what those explosions were. The statement from Central Command goes on to say that targets included missile launch sites and Iranian boats attempting to emplace mines. That is, put mines into the area of the Strait of Hormuz. So this shows you just how delicate and fragile the situation is through the Strait of Hormuz and in Iran itself, at a time when the US and Iran have been trying to reach some sort of deal that would allow further negotiations to take place down the track. Now,
the dogs of war don't negotiate.
Over for now, but
they
US
don't
Central
capitulate.
Command says that they continue to defend our forces while using restraint during the ongoing ceasefire. So clearly Central Command is trying to paint a picture here of a balancing act. That is one where they are prepared to take defensive action to target Iranian troops that may well be putting their own soldiers and US ships under threat, but at the same time not trying to breach the ceasefire itself, Alex. But that's certainly a worrying development at a very difficult time.
Jonathan Kirsty updating us.
No matter how he puts it, you cannot save face here. Now the ceasefire has been broken. So like everything else, though, things are being turned up. Trump says he told negotiators not to rush into a deal with Iran. Well, of course not. You're already attacking anyways. Why should there be a deal? Negotiations are proceeding in an orderly and constructive manner. I have informed my representatives not to rush into a deal at that time is on our side, the president wrote. Yeah, I can see how confident he is. Yeah. The likes of which nobody's ever seen before. According to the source, memorandum includes a Lebanon ceasefire framework, but the Israeli state reportedly uncomfortable with the arrangement, pushing D.C. to include language, which now he said that they must, fall in line and recognize the Israeli state, meaning that not a Palestinian state, but an Israeli state and Levant, and pretty much give up on the Palestinians, making the Israelis in charge, They're never going to agree to that. U.S. official says D.C., Tehran, reached preliminary deal to reopen Strait. Oh, yeah, so they got a preliminary deal. And then you attack them. Oh, yeah, I can see how well that's going to go. According to Fox News on Sunday, officials suggested that the U.S. could consider significant accommodations on sanctions relief if Iran agrees to make similar concessions regarding enriched uranium stockpile. The official said the statement is not yet to be signed, remains subject to approved by U.S. President Trump and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, a process that could take several days, noting that the method of disposing of Iran's highly enriched uranium. They never agreed to getting rid of the uranium, by the way. Oh, and here we go. People are beginning to criticize him for that, so of course, he's lashing back. Trump slams losers criticizing Iran deal. U.S. President Trump lashed out at critics. Still unfinished peace deal with Iran, saying negotiations with Tehran are proceeding in orderly and constructive manner, but that he had instructed the representatives not to rush into agreement. Trump insisted that any deal reached by his administration would not resemble the Obama-era 2015 nuclear agreement, which he deemed as one of the worst deals ever made. Our deal is the exact opposite, but nobody has seen it or knows what it is. So don't listen to losers who are critical about something they know nothing about. Well, they see your actions, and they're judging by your actions. Your actions are just like they are with all your other allies, and nobody wants to fucking deal with your ass. People are fucking tired of the fucking tariffs and the bullshit. They don't want to fucking deal with you. Now they're looking to someone else, and that someone else is Russia. Pentagon conducts first military drill in Venezuela since Maduro overthrow. On Saturday, the U.S. military conducted a highly visible drill in the heart of Caracas, making the first known American military exercise on Venezuela's soil since the chaotic 3rd of January operation to abduct and, of course, destroy the country by kidnapping their leader. The show of force involved 2 U.S. Marine Corps Odysee aircraft touching down near the recently opened U.S. Embassy in Caracas, which went operational only 2 months ago in March. So a lot like everything else, though, they'll be attacking Cuba from Venezuela as well as the aircraft carrier they've already put in. So yeah, Cuba's about to be taken over. They're doing the same thing, saying they're going after drug boats. And then eventually they're going to just come in and take it over completely. The drill with the Venezuelan government said it had authorized an evacuation drill for possible medical emergencies and disasters. Bullshit. This is what they really think of them, though. Yeah, it looks like they're very happy with Donald Trump over there. That Donald Trump could be the Venezuela president. Well, you see what they think of them. Let it burn. Yeah, a little bit too late for it. He did take over that country, but they don't have to be happy about it. Who said that it's a happy takeover? But that's what he's trying to sell with Cuba, that it'll be a happy takeover, a friendly takeover. Trump indicates he'll sign bill making daylight savings time permanent. Okay, a lot of other shit's going on, and he's talking about daylight savings time. Who gives a fuck when you can't even get fucking resources? Who gives a goddamn about that, is what people are saying. President Trump indicated he would sign a bill to make daylight savings time permanent as House of Representatives Committee advanced a measure that would codify the change. President said that there's considerable work and money that he has spent on the ridiculous twice yearly production, referring to the changing of time. Shall change times and laws. He also said that it would be a very nice win for the Republican Party. Known as the Sunshine Protection Act, the bill was proposed by who released a statement that's saying that it would bring us one step closer to ending the outdated and unpopular practice of changing our clocks twice a year. So there we go. Just stupidity at its finest. Nobody gives a fuck about that. But that's what he's wasting time with over here. Hiding the Epstein files, and of course, looking to take over Cuba, Greenland, Canada. These rumors, and then of course, to hit Iran with the likes that nobody's ever seen before. Iranian delegation heads to Doha for talks on possible final agreement with the U.S. We know that they're not looking for. That the U.S. is not looking for peace. They've already started attacking. Iranian delegation led by Parliamentary Speaker Ghalib and Foreign Minister Abbas al-Gharshi traveled to Doha on Monday for talks with Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister over a possible agreement between Iran and the U.S., Iranian state media said. So, like everything else, though, you know what happens when they're close to reaching a deal. They get attacked. And, of course, in politics over there, Khalif re-elected as Iranian Parliament Speaker, The election of the Parliament Presiding Board took place during the third annual session of the legislative body on Monday morning. Khalif had served as a speaker throughout the 4 years of the 11th Parliament and the first 2 years of the 12th Parliament. The Parliament Presiding Board consisted of 12 seats, 1 for the Speaker, 2 for Vice Speakers, 6 for Secretaries, and 3 for Observers. So, it was a no contest. Obviously, he won the re-election there. And like everything else, though, there's a small little snippet here, because we're at the end of Babylon. And as it comes to an end, everything else is going to get turned up. You could say trumped. Because basically it's at its last trump. And you got this douche in here bringing in the New World Order, bringing down the old world order. It's like you bring in their New World Order. You see how well that works? He's not working for the interests of the people, but rather working for the interests of the Israeli state, and the New World Order. So... Well, it tells you where you're at now, because 2 Ezra 15 really reiterates a lot of Matthew chapter 24, before the return of Yahweh Shai. Is the exact time that we're in. So, this has been deemed the year of apostasy, of great sellouts. People that are coming in deceiving. You got that rude POS Bishop Nathaniel. It's June, ain't no mark of the beast. You got him. You got lots of others. And they're not even calling upon the names of Yahweh Shai, right? But they're deceiving. Matthew chapter 24, verse 5. For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and deceive many. There's no other but General Yohanan. And as you have those coming in, yet you're seeing all this. You will hear wars and rumors of war, but see that you are not alarmed. This is the NIV version. Some things must happen, but the end is still to come. So, alright, some things are happening now, but there's more to come. There's a lot more to come. And it's going to turn up. It's going to intensify. Nation will rise against nation. That means uproars of the people, etc. And kingdom against kingdom. Civil unrest. There will be famines, earthquakes in various places. Just like what he read. 2 Ezra chapter 15 reiterates this. All these are at the beginning of birth pains. So we're at the beginning of birth pains. But, as you get closer and closer to the child coming out, it gets worse. So it's going to get worse before Yahweh Shai comes. Then you'll be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. They'll put you on trial. And the death penalty. Or put you in concentration camps. People are going to be turning against you, like Judas is. You will be hated by all nations because of me, because you've kept your faith, you kept your patience, and you didn't receive the MOTB, and you pretty much refused it every step of the way. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate one another, and that's, when the going gets tough, many are going to, break away. You have a lot of break-off groups now. Many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. But because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. So everybody's going to be turning against each other. But the one who stands firm to the end will be spared, will be saved. And that is from the coming destruction. And many times during... crises and all that, the Most High has been showing throughout this whole thing that He's going to be there when it gets worse. As things get worse, yet I have sustainability unlike any other do. And I know it's coming from the Most High Yahweh and Yahweh Shai because of simply, I'm not given too much, but yet I'm given enough. I'm given what I need. You see? I'm not spoiled, I'm just given what I need to stand firm, you know, to pretty much, okay, I still have stockpile, I'm still able to survive, you know. So, you know, like everything else though, you know, don't lose it, man, because, you know, like the brother said though, those that have the true faith are going to be the ones that stand to the end. So hopefully all this has been edifying. Got one more here. And it's just pretty much about the collapse of Babylon, you know. It's at its 250 years mark and it's collapsing. You know, Babylon's the last kingdom to be destroyed before the return of Yahweh Shai. So we're at the end of Esau's kingdom, the second rulership ruled by Babylon, ruled by America, and it's collapsing unlike any other, the likes of which nobody has ever seen before. But we understand prophecy. So let us say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Brakatam Yehovah elect. This is a small little snippet. Shalom.
The American empire will collapse in the next 5 to 10 years because it is overstretched, too much debt, too much corruption, too much inequality. It's too much debt, and it is really angering the entire world. It's basically unifying the entire world against it right now. Say empires last around 200 years, and so we are now in the twilight of the American empire. And the other thing that we know is you can't actually stop the decline of empires. So Oswald Spengler, who is a German theoretician, he argues that we are human beings, and we have natural life cycles because we're organisms. Well, societies are the same way, where empires, they will be born, they'll rise, and they'll die. And it's a good thing because that's what allows for constant human innovation.
Do you think that will happen in my lifetime? I'm 30 years old, 30 years old.
It may happen in everyone's lifetime. It may happen in the next 5 to 10 years. We are seeing...
Do you think that's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years?
I think there's a very strong possibility.
And if that is to be the case, what would you give me as advice as a 33-year-old? What action should I be thinking about taking now, based on what you know about history, to make sure that, you know, it's not too bad for myself? I guess I'm asking this question in light of you predicting that there might be a collapse of the sort of Western or the American empire. And in such a scenario, I was wondering what it would look like to be an American. And is there a solution or a course of behavior one should take in such a scenario? But I guess that's the key question, which is, if the US empire does collapse, how does American life change or Western life change?
Okay, so one theory that's very important to understand is something called Hermetic philosophy. And Hermetic philosophy is what underpins Plato's idea of the cave. Mm-hmm. And Hermetic philosophy comes from Egypt. And it has certain principles, but its main principle is that reality is energy, it's vibrations. Okay, so we think of it as material, but material is a consequence of energy, right? So what this means is that reality is consciousness itself. So our thoughts are what's real. Our bodies are just vehicles to experience the world around us, but they're not real. When we die, our souls return to the source, and we come back again. And we're here primarily in order to experience things we can experience in the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world, it's not material.
Did you notice that he mentioned regeneration? He just said it though, so, you know, even they know, you know. Unlike plantation Christianity, where it says you only live once. No, you still keep coming back, you know, and that's just it. Eventually, he that leadeth in captivity shall go into captivity, and we're seeing the beginning of the end of our captivity and Esau going into captivity.
So, what's really important is to appreciate that every one of us is part of the source. And so, if we think about the totality of things, we can only become despondent. We can only give up hope. But if you think about how individually we can become a better person,